What's up, everybody? My name is Dietrich and we are currently driving a 2018 Audi A4 Ultra. And what we're going to discuss today is if you should buy a used Audi A4, potentially similar to the one that I'm currently in. So what are my qualifications to be telling you about all this? Well, I've been in car sales for about 15 years. I spent almost 3 of those years on an Audi Volkswagen lot. I spent another 1.5 years on a BMW lot, 2.5 years on a Jaguar Land Rover lot. So long story short, I have seen a lot of used cars, I've sold a lot of used cars, and I wasn't one of those salespeople that didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I took the time to learn my product, pay attention at the training, talk to the guys in the back, the technicians, figure out what's really going on with the cars. So my opinion might be worth something to you. So let's get started. And the first question anybody should have when they're talking about trying to buy a used car is reliability. Is this car going to be reliable? Now, for the purposes of this video, I am just going to compare the A4 to the 3 Series and the C-Class because those are the cars that it's most often compared to on the new car side of things. The used car sides of things can be a little bit different because when it comes to used cars, somebody might be comparing a used A4 to like a used Honda Accord, depending on the price point or whatever. I can't compare it to every car ever made, so we're going to stick with C-Class 3 Series A4. First and foremost, whenever you're going to buy any used car, is you have to take each car on its own merits. Every used car is going to be a little bit different. So, do you have access to any kind of maintenance? Have a look at the Carfax report. Don't just look for accidents or other incidents that might show up on Carfax, but a lot of times, especially if somebody took it to a dealer for maintenance, the maintenance will show up on the Carfax report. So pay attention to that. Did they have the car regularly serviced? That's a really big deal when we're talking about cars like Audis, BMWs, and Mercedes-Benz. These cars are more sensitive to the maintenance being done on them than your average Toyotas and Hondas. So look at every used car on its own merits, and if you can, I highly suggest having the car inspected by a qualified mechanic. It might cost you $100, $200, $300, but it might save you thousands of dollars in the end, and if the car is totally solid, you're just buying yourself peace of mind. And when you have it inspected, if the car's turns out to be a total piece of junk, just walk away from it. But if it needs a couple $1,000s worth of work and it's a used car somebody's trying to sell for 15, 18, 20 grand, maybe you go back to the seller and you say, hey man, look it needs this, this, and this, a couple $1,000 to fix it. How are we going to work this out? You're going to come down on the price a little bit? You want to pay to get a couple of these things fixed and then I'll come back and buy the car? You might be able to use it as a negotiating tool, but at least that way you're not going into it blind. That's just general used car advice. I'll put a link to the video in the description that I made about what you can look for if you're looking at buying a used car. But as far as reliability on an Audi A4, they're actually relatively solid for the class. And I'll put my cards on the table. If it was me, I would rather see a 3 Series BMW sitting in my driveway than an A4 or a C-Class for my own esoteric reasons. But if you were a friend or a family member coming to me saying, which one should I buy? In general, I would actually say the A4 because I've found them to be more solidly put together, especially than the 3 Series BMWs. With the C-Class, it kind of varies a little bit more from year to year. The newer ones, I think, are a little more solid. The 3 Series are just so hit and miss when it comes to both reliability and build quality, in my opinion. This Audi right here, I'm filming this in 2022. This is a 2018 model. It's got 67,331 miles on it, and it still feels solid. There's no real squeaks or rattles in here. It feels really, really nice. When I was selling BMWs, if I took a 3 Series on a lease return, sometimes, and not always, it was hit or miss, but sometimes I'd get in the car they were lease returning to get their new one, drive it 1.5 blocks over to the storage lot where we kept the used cars, and it felt like it was going to fall apart just in that 1.5 blocks. So many squeaks and rattles and just crazy. And at first I thought like maybe some of these customers are really abusing these cars, but I don't think so, just based on the kind of people and when it did or didn't happen. I think it was just a roll of the dice. And I think mechanically, the Audis are a little bit more solid than the BMWs too. Now, the Mercedes-Benz reliability is probably also a little bit better than the BMW reliability. As far as reliability goes, the Audis and the Mercedes-Benz are probably kind of similar, at least in my opinion and in my experience. The one thing I will say in Audi's favor, I always felt like of those automakers, Audi took the same sort of care and love and material quality in building an A4 as they would have into an A6 or an A8. Whereas if you're looking at like certain C classes, they are just garbage as far as the interiors. The W204 in particular just had the worst, most plasticky looking interior, and they would have never put that in an S-Class. You get in an S-Class Mercedes, it's a beautiful car. You get into a C-Class, might feel a little cheap. But that being said, I've had a couple of friends who had W204s and they loved them and raved about them, so maybe that's a good car for you. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that Audi put a little bit more care into building the A4 than BMW did in the 3 Series or Mercedes did in the C-Class, but in different ways. Now let's talk about the luxury field, because ostensibly these are luxury cars, even though they're sort of entry-level luxury cars. It kind of depends on the package and the individual car, and on your particular definition of luxury as to which one you should get, A4 3 Series C-Class. Because, you know, if you get a sport C-Class versus an Audi A4 Prestige that's got beige interior and Bang & Olufsen sound and everything else, well, the Audi's going to be the more luxurious car. Or if you're looking at, you know, an A4 S-Line that somebody put black rims on and this and that and the other thing versus a luxury version of one of the other cars, they made so many different variations of these things over the years that it's hard to say which one's the most luxurious. I mean, I think that the knee-jerk answer to the question is the 3 Series, but again, it kind of does depend on the package. And as time has gone on, I think that these automakers have kind of changed their aim, their goals. Mercedes used to be, we just want to do luxury, but with the C-Class, that they always kind of trended a little bit more towards the sporty, and as time has gone on, C-Classes have gotten sportier. BMW's the opposite. The 3 Series used to be sport, 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 and then as time went on, they got more luxurious and they kind of went away from the sporty version of it. Audi has always kind of occupied a comfortable middle ground where there was some sporty and some luxury built into all the A4s, leaning a little bit more towards the sport. So again, I think Audi probably gives you the best balance between sport and luxury of all those cars, but once again, it depends on the individual car. So do your research, figure out what's important to you and what options you really want, and what package had the options you want for the year that you're looking at that's going to fit your budget. That would be my advice there. I'll touch on one other thing that's very important to buyers of these type of cars, and that would be the looks. How does it look? And beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so I can't tell you which one you think looks the best. I think it's not the Mercedes. That's my opinion. The newest C-Classes, I think, look nice, but they just look like baby S-Classes, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't really cut its own profile. The BMWs have always looked pretty good. I didn't really like the E90 when it first came out, but it has grown on me so much over the years. But the Audis have always been consistently tasteful and handsome, and I would, if I was ranking them, I would have to overall give the looks nod to the Audi A4. I think that consistently over the years that they've built it, starting in '96 right up to today, Audi's never really built an ugly A4. You know, they've all looked pretty good, and they've all been nice looking cars. So in my opinion, the A4 looks the best. Again, that may not be very useful for you. But yeah, the A4 is a gorgeous car. So anyway, that's my video about if you should buy a used Audi A4. Again, I think in general, if that's the kind of car you want, the answer is probably yes, but I strongly advise you to inspect each car on its own merit and have it inspected by a qualified mechanic. Pay the money out of pocket to do that. That really saved my bacon once when I was looking at a used Saab 9.5 that was a pile. It looked nice, but it turns out that it wasn't nice. So anyway, that's my video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it helpful, please like it, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out. And have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.